Greetings, Marcus here from Coaster Touring and Ride and Park Media. Today I thought I'd take a look and show you some of the GoPro mounts that I use when filming rides and roller coasters around the world. Now, people love GoPros. They're small and compact and they have small mounts and they don't take a lot, so they're really easy to fit in your pocket and go travelling with. But no, we don't travel light. This case is 20 kilos of kit, and that's just for attaching GoPros, basically. So let's dive in and have a look and see what we've got in here. So first up is my real go-to selection of clamps. I could probably get away with just using these most of the time. So in here are a selection of mini super clamps and mini magic arms. Now these super clamps are great. In over a decade of filming rides and roller coasters, I've yet to have one of these fail. I do check them regularly, and with any kit, when it comes to attaching your GoPros in a safe fashion, you should always be checking your kit regularly. But these have yet to go wrong for me. And these basically are like vice clamps, and you spin this to tighten up and to loosen. So these clamps are great for pretty much attaching anywhere on a ride or roller coaster. We often film for our POVs by attaching the cameras as close to the track as possible. The closer you are to the track, the greater the perception of speed. The further you are away from an object when you're moving along, particularly with a very wide angle lens on a GoPro, it changes how fast things look, and they can look really, really slow. So the closer you come to a fixed static object, such as the rails, such as the track, the more you get a sense of speed. So these clamp on to the chassis. I also use them for clamping onto grab rails on the trains. And then alongside these, you need something to actually put the GoPro on. And that's where these mini magic arms come in. And I have two different sizes. I have the short one and I have a longer one. Now my preference is always to try and use the shorter one. So the shorter they are, the less ability for any flex or wobble. And it's flex and wobble that can wrongly make a coaster look rough. You can set the angle that you want the camera to be, so you're clamped on there, set that angle how it should be, tighten that up, and once it's tightened up, it will not move. That arm is absolutely locked in place. So these are my #1 accessory. I would say probably 80% of what we film, we're using these to attach them to, hence why we have so many of them. And then we have the bigger brother to the mini super clamps, the full-size Manfrotto super clamp. These are absolutely rock solid, and they will not go anywhere. Once you've clamped down on that, it's not budging at all. I'll often use the bigger super clamps on a really, really extreme and intense roller coaster. So when we filmed the POV on Hyperion, I used one of these to clamp onto the chassis of the train, just because it's tougher. And when there's high G-forces involved, you don't want to take any chances. And then alongside those, we have the big brother to the mini magic arm. It's the Manfrotto magic arm. And these again are tougher versions of those little magic arms. And once you've locked that, that is locked in place. So these come in handy if you want to extend the camera much further away from the mounting point. I've used these when shooting VR POV to be able to position the camera. If you're going off a grab rail, you can get the camera higher up and in position. But I then, because you're obviously further away, and as I was saying, the further away you are, the more sort of little bit of wobble and flex you get. I would then use another arm to clamp onto there and to clamp on to create like a triangle shape, because that helps to eliminate any flex. When we're attaching to rides, we always make sure we have a minimum of 2 points of attachment. We don't take chances, we don't take risks. We won't just rely on that clamp. These clamps have never failed, the smaller clamps have never failed, but that doesn't mean they won't or they can't. So we always make sure we have full redundancy. And we have various different ways of redundancy. It could be using loads and loads of cable ties, just for securing. It could be using lanyards and carabiners. And then the most common way we attach as second form of redundancy is Gorilla Tape. We absolutely love Gorilla Tape. In a year of these smaller rolls, we get through about 30 smaller rolls in a typical year of filming. I've tested loads of different brands of gaffer tape, and the only one that we're prepared to put on our risk assessment and prepared to put our name to and prepared to put near a ride to ensure the safety of the cameras, but more importantly the safety of guests, passengers and staff working around the ride, is Gorilla Tape. It sticks far better than any other gaff tape that we've used. I can't sing the praise of Gorilla Tape enough. Then we come to our first bit of modified, specially made bits of kit. You may go, it's just bits of wood. Well, it is just bits of wood, but these are specifically designed and made for particular roller coaster trains. These fit 2 actual trains. These are for the Timberliner trains. Now, on a lot of the Timberliner trains, some of them are slightly changing now. On a lot of them, they have a nice little bumper plate at the front, and we typically sit our GoPro just behind the bumper plate. But the bumper plate has a lip, and the lip is just a bit too high for the camera to sit nicely behind. So we use these, and these have been made to the exact dimensions of the bumper plate, and the GoPro sits on the top, but the bumper plate is still there. So there's still enough there that the camera can't fly forward, and rather handily, the dimensions are also suitable for the Intamin family suspended thrill coaster. If you want to attach onto the central column of the coaster, there is a box running down the backside of the column which holds a lot of the control system for the train. And you don't want to tighten onto that because you don't want to crush anything and risk damaging any control cables. So these are also, rather helpfully, the exact dimensions of that trunking. And so they fit either side of the trunking to protect it. We can then clamp and tighten up around that column without risking any damage to that trunking. Always carry a mini toolkit and keep a few different pairs of pliers in there, which come in handy for either tightening up or more usually for trying to rip the cameras back off the ride when you're trying to get through all that tape. And then screwdrivers. Poncho, you never know when it's going to suddenly lash it down with rain. Obviously this isn't for me, this is for the camera. If I've got the camera, that's far more important than I am. Then another selection of sort of arm type bits. These are made by a company called RAM, They are ball mounts, so these are the equivalent of the mini magic arms, and then these are the ball mounts, so these go into there, and then you would use a different attachment at the other end, and you clamp up. Really expensive to buy all of this. This is about £200 worth of mounts in there. Would I go through this process again of going down this route? No, I would always go for the mini magic arms and mini super clamps. Then suction mount. I'm not a fan of using suction mounts. I use them when I absolutely have to and there's no alternative. The main reason I don't really like them is it's not really a physical point of contact. You're just relying on a sucker to hold the camera in place. And I'm not always that comfortable with it. I'd rather use cable ties and gaffer tape. I'd really rather use clamps all the time, but sometimes the clamps can't be used. But Gorilla Tape and cable ties are my preference. Having said that, I did use this on Red Force at Ferrari Land in Portaventura, and I did use a heck of a lot of Gorilla Tape all around this. And then comes the bit that I think most people will recognise, and that's your standard GoPro mount, roll bar mount. It's kind of all the usual things that you expect to see with GoPros, and I think anyone with a GoPro has got a ton of these. So this is an adapter, so I can use the GoPro mounts on the top of there, and this is what I use in conjunction with these bigger magic arms. That clamps onto the top there, and then you've got your GoPro on there as well. The important thing to say when filming on ride is ensure you have permission. Now, the way I often attach to the chassis of trains, you're not going to be able to just sneak in and quickly attach to the front of the train. But I'm talking about in general, whether you're using a wrist mount, a chest mount, don't handhold. Make sure you have permission. Don't take chances. A lot of parks will not allow you to take cameras on ride at all, and you have to respect that, and that is for safety reasons. They're not being awkward and trying to upset you and being annoying. They're doing it for good reason, and that's the safety of you, other guests in the park, and the staff around it. So don't take any chances, don't try and sneak cameras onto ride. That's just not the right thing to do. So with that in mind, I hope you've enjoyed having a look at what's in the GoPro bag, and all I can say is happy riding and have fun out and about filming.